I haven't done anything in kind of a while, and I wanted to bring something to my YouTube because it's been a little bit of time. What I wanted to put up has to do with the new moon. We've got such a strong new moon. Oh my gosh, such a strong new moon in Taurus tonight. Um, Going on right now. I want to go over a little bit what is involved and what that might mean, especially as I wanted to sort of tie that into Mercury is about to go retrograde. So I've done quite a bit of Mercury retrograde episodes on my podcast, which is on Bandcamp called Station Mercury. I talked about it a little bit here. The one thing too about this new moon is it's really generally the full moon is considered like the peak of the lunar phase, but this time really the new moon is it's hitting such a peak, and whereas the full moon often is associated with revealing major revealings, it's the new moon, especially this new moon, is associated with revealings. And what this particular one reveals, it's so strong, like the bull, strong like bull, as they say. What's so strong about this one is the fact that Uranus has been retrograde in the sign of Taurus. And as I've gone over a bit here at my station, how Uranus doesn't really belong in Taurus to begin with, much less going retrograde. Or I'm sorry, Uranus is not retrograde right now. It is going to go retrograde again in the sign of Taurus later this year. But Uranus doesn't belong in Taurus at all to begin with. So Uranus is in fall in the sign of Taurus, and the reason why is because Taurus is fixed Earth. Uranus is the planet of revolution, upheaval, shaking things up. Taurus likes its position of, you might say, being as fixed Earth. Earth is already the most rooted and most unyielding, unmoving of the zodiac, of the signs. But fixed Earth, you're talking about Uranus being in fixed Earth, is as the planet of major upheavals, major chaos. Uranus is the sky, is astrology itself. And so things are constantly changing up, always needing to be adapted to, just constantly needing invention, reinvention, adaptability to even know what's going on. And Taurus doesn't like that. That's like the polar, just about polar opposite. Taurus doesn't really like major upheavals and major transformation. Taurus wants things to stay how they are once they, or it, whatever you want to say, that wavelength, once that wavelength has hit a nice stride of being surrounded by comforts, the whole toroidal wavelengths and meaning is to sort of stay rooted, centered, like the Taurus. Things are like donut shaped, kind of revolving around, like talking about comforts that are in sort of this shape, like around, around me. I've got my creature comforts around me, and I've got it to where it finally feels good. I don't want anything to come in and cause major upheavals and transformations and need to be adapted to. So if that's on the fly, not writing things down, if I make sense. Hopefully, I'm kind of riffing a bit right now, but stuff that I've been in for a long time now. But hopefully that helps sort of to create an overall wavelength, an overarching why things are the way they are. Now, the new moon as opposed to the full moon, this is like a revealing of almost like the still point, that silent point. It's a still silent point, but just the greatest, biggest, vastest, you might say, point of bringing in the greater picture. We are able to take that much more into it, us, or inhabit that much more inhabits us of the greater picture of things that you really only get and only receive and only perceive at the pinnacle of stillness, or a receptacle or container that's the most empty, that allows for the most to fulfill. See what I'm saying? So that's what's going on right now with this new moon. But Mercury is in the cusp between Gemini and Taurus, which is the position of power that is called the cusp of, or wait, no, I'm sorry, it's actually the cusp of energy. I just want to correct that real quick. The cusp of power would be between Aries and Taurus, which is still relevant right now, especially with Pallas Athena. If you're really big on what Pallas Athena means and does, then we would get back to what's going on at the cusp of power. Taurus, where's my thingamajig? I'll just bring that up here and I'll show you real quick. I just did this so on the fly. You can tell I'm saying things like my thingamajig and yeah, kind of just like riffing, sort of. But I wanted to get to the bottom of... Okay, here we go. Took a second to grab that. That is the cusp of power. That is Pallas Athena. That diamond shape with the meeting point equal cross underneath. And then that is vertex right above, and that's another whole can of worms, if we can open that later. Right now, what we're talking about, and I'm going to have to go, is the cusp of energy. But I'm going to have to go and I'm going to stitch these parts together. That's the cusp of energy. That is where Mercury is right now. And Mercury is set to go retrograde on May 10th. And that's going to be huge, as Mercury goes retrograde at the cusp of energy, pretty much, in the sign of Gemini. On May 10th is going to mean so much with what's going on with the new moon in Taurus. But right now we are seeing a still point, almost like a calm. It's the calm before the real storm starts with what's going on with Uranus. This new moon, that's a great way to put it, and I just kind of riffed that too. The calm before the actual storm hits. So, and that makes it sacred in its own right. It means a lot in its own right. So when I come back, we'll get more into that, but I have to go for now. So this is a little breaking point. So let's see what I want to look at. What I want to go over next is how this new moon, at the same time, it's like the eye of the storm. It's like the eye of the storm. It's like the calm point, the calmest point of chaos. It is chaos itself. It's a wide open gate, and unfortunately what we're going to see is so much of what we thought was chaos that was about to sort of like level out is really just, it's really just starting, really just beginning, especially as what happens too this year is Saturn goes retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. Not till June though. You have till June. So now is the time to make preparations. There's a really good heads up window. Even though Mercury retrograde is May 10th, the even bigger retrograde is going to be the body called the Greater Malefic. The Greater Malefic Saturn is going to go retrograde June 4th. What I want to say too from there is that with Mercury's retrograde right at the cusp of energy, what's going to happen is Mercury rules the sign of Gemini. As this happens in the sign of Gemini and goes back through Taurus, retrograde style, it's going to be obnoxious. This Mercury in retrograde is going to have special features of just being really obnoxious. I would prepare for that. If you're a more laid back person, if you need laid back and you don't thrive in chaos, you're going to want to get away from this very strong Mercury in retrograde. Very strong, just, again, that's the word of the day for describing it, is obnoxious, annoying. It's going to be obnoxious and it's going to be annoying. So there you have it. Now, what's going to happen too is this Mercury in retrograde is going to be square with a Saturn in Aquarius. It instantly goes retrograde right after that retrograde. So Mercury in retrograde will happen first, May 10th. Then right after that, after Mercury goes direct again, Saturn goes in retrograde. And that's going to hit a lot like, it's like cause and effect ping pong balls. You know, the balls at the end of the string, where you pull one back, you let go, and the others might stay still, but at the opposite end, that one goes flying and then comes back, and only the one at the ends go flying. So that describes what's going on right now in the sky perfectly, because what we are looking at is the new moon in Taurus conjunct with Uranus, and Uranus is chaos. And what we just went over has to do with how Uranus doesn't belong. It doesn't feel good at all in the sign of Taurus, and here's why. And like my beautiful twin flame, my love of my life, Jessica, was even just like, in the crystal shop, there was just stuff going on. Luckily, nothing broke, but she was having a hard time with, and there's not much that's more, she wasn't really having a hard time, just there was things that were going on to where some stuff was basically coming close to falling. None of the crystals broke, which no matter how long you've been in the crystal industry and stuff, and in the crystal biz, something's going to break on you. No one has a perfect track record. I shouldn't say that absolutely, but they probably move as slow as a dinosaur, literally. But nothing broke. But yeah, she was experiencing that, and I guess my bae was even like, is there a moon in Taurus? So yeah, that's what that is. When it comes to physical goods, physical things, physical material stuff, the things we surround ourselves with that we consider our material possessions in life, if they can kind of be going awry a little bit, that would be like the moon in that sign, because the moon tends to be dissolution or waxing, waning, like much the way water can be sometimes even corrosive, but have a dissolving effect, or sort of a waxing and waning, bit of a wobble effect. But we need that wobble, of course. So even though lots of us don't like it, don't feel comfortable with it, we need that wobble and that sort of entropy. And without that, things that shouldn't calcify are allowed to calcify just forever. So I never look down upon that. I never curse upon the moon, or, shake my fist at the moon. So, let's see. What I wanted to get to next was, I didn't really, I had no plans to get to this. There's so much going on in Pisces when it comes to, like, Venus right now in Pisces, Mars in Pisces, and I'm a Mars in Pisces native, so that's interesting, but I won't get too deep in that. But Venus in that sign, one thing I am offering right now is, let's see, let me just pop that up. I have right here, this book has served me quite well in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. When it comes to knowing what's going on beyond the veil, beyond what most people can't see beyond at all. So what I'm offering is reading this book for you and the person you're with, and all I do, this is all I offer, is help saving relationships. I do not offer any advice at all about why you need to get away. That's meddling. I do not meddle. I do not do, here's why you need to get away. No matter what your signs in your zodiac configuration is, no matter what the person you're with, no matter what their zodiac configuration is. I only utilize this and what's going on in your birth charts to help. I don't at all do, here's why you need to get away, or here's why it's not going to work. you can always get it to work. There's always stuff going on that you can get it to work, and that's what I'm here to do. And I'm with someone I love very much, and I think a lot of the people who sit there and meddle and say, here's why you need to get away, are very lonely people. And lots of times, even if they don't mean it, that could easily be misconstrued and taken as, well, why do you need to create a blank spot there? I don't create a blank spot. I just try to find middle common ground between you and the person you're with. But for about 200, depending on how much extra work or how much work you save on, how much I can streamline, this book, along with what's going on in natal charts, can save relationships. And normally that sort of thing, I've checked around, I've done my homework. People will generally charge about $500 to even $600 for that sort of thing to save a relationship. Because when you start adding stuff like this, and someone who can interpret the chart, it is not cheap. It is far, far better than any of the mundane counseling sessions that you'll go to. And I know that might seem like an opinion, but I've studied around, and also it's not. That's why I'm into this stuff, because I know firsthand and I've seen it myself. So, Cash App, Exoverse Media, PayPal, Visions Electric Blue at yahoo.com. You can get a hold of me and just let me know what's up. You can put in the subject relationship, relationship save, relationship reading, and I'll know what's up, and I'll get back to you right away, and we will figure that out for you, figure out a time, what works best. So we'll make that happen. And basically, so now what we're looking at with this new moon too, is not just a new moon of chaos, but upheavals, revolutions, things completely, the cards being shaken up, shuffled up, completely redealt in a whole new hand, so to speak. And one thing we're looking at that's going on with more recent stuff is, of course, huge. No, I'm not talking about the Oscar slap. I'm actually talking about the Musk buyout of Twitter. That's huge. And one thing I wanted to say was, I know he didn't see it. He's like the busiest man alive on the planet. I know he didn't see it, but I sort of mentioned on his Twitter account, kind of like at Elon Musk. I don't expect him to see it, but it was like, the thing is, Elon, the social media is not the real world. He's used to what goes on in the real world with real money. Social media is not the real world. And the people he's up against, like I was trying to sort of give him a bit of a heads up about, the people he's dealing with fight dirty. And social media is not the real world. There's a lot more you can get away with for a dirty fighter, which is why they love the virtual world and the cyber reality so much. It's their favorite stomping ground, because there's so much more you can get away with that you'll never get caught for. And like I was trying to tell him, they play dirty. Elon's used to what goes on in a real world with real money and what he can do with his operations with real money. So now the virtual world and the cyber reality and the technological, I know he's no stranger to technology and no stranger to what people do behind your back in the corporate world. The cyber realm is Uranus, and right now Uranus is in Taurus. So almost in a way, revolutions are stuck. Chaos is almost in a way stuck. And chaos doesn't like the feeling of being stuck. And chaos is taking people who need comfort and need things not to change, and be able to share things and change things in the world around them at their own pace. Very controlled. This is very uncontrollable sense. And just the major shakeup that we're all stuck in. And right now, as this is going on with Elon's world, with Twitter, is and people who fight just underhanded, dirty, it very much, it feels out of control. And I'm sure he's more used to a sense of control of his reality. Even if he's good at adapting to what feels like is out of hands. So, what I said to Elon too in that tweet that I'm sure he'll never see, that reply to his tweet actually, was just that these people who he's up against, they also don't care about money. Everyone's like, well, what's different about Elon, where he has the upper hand, is that he bought Twitter and doesn't even care about the money. He does. It's an investment, sure, and he's still the richest man on the planet. But when he bought Twitter, he doesn't care about money. But what these people who run Twitter and the people who run all the social media outlets and all the media outlets altogether, they don't care about the money so much either. What it is it is a control game to them. It's actually, and what I wrote down that I needed to point out, and this very much ties into what's going on here that you're looking at in that star chart that I can go over a bit more, is basically, which do you think they value more, that they want more? And this is what I've experienced firsthand. What do you think they want more? A mundane social media account full of opinions but has 300,000 to 3 million views? Or do they care more about 3 views, just 3 views of an account, where that account is not mundane? You might say mystically themed, mystical subject. 3 views of an account that is very, very powerful when it comes to energy, dynamic flow, the things that these very departments and agencies are set up to harness. Do you think they care more about an account that seems powerful with 300,000 to 3 million views, or an account that actually is powerful, where all that clout and all the magnetic attraction and the pull of all these likes and hearts and clicks and views doesn't mean that much? But what they found is something that's far more easy to control and drain of its life force, its mana. I use that word a lot now, mana, where that person gets 3 to 13 to 30 views as opposed to 300,000 views to 3 million. But there is an actual hidden power, a secret fire is in that account. It doesn't matter if the rest of the world thinks that person is weird or awkward or crazy or schizoid or this, that, and the other, whatever you can say. All that matters is the finding and the isolating of these accounts, right? These accounts that deal more along the lines of, if you even might say ascension, or if not ascension, just awareness of things that are less mundane. These awareness accounts of things that are less mundane are highly more valued and sought out and coveted of a prize to those who would segregate and isolate these accounts and the information within them than those who are just highly opinionated and seem to be cultural influencers, like quote unquote, they call them social media influencers. These accounts that I'm mentioning, the accounts of power that get hardly any views, are way more coveted than the social media influencers who are getting tons of views, likes, hearts, and clicks. We have a very skewed perception of what we are calling powerful, to the point that's what this whole new moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus is all about. Even what are we even calling powerful, and why are we calling it powerful? Why do we have a tendency to call Elon Musk's ability to buy out Twitter or Coca-Cola even and get 300 million likes and retweets within 24 hours powerful, where the actual coveted prize and those who are actually sought to be isolated and drained off are the more powerful accounts that would make you laugh? And the reason it would make you laugh is because they get 30 views, maybe likes, 3 likes. So that's definitely food for thought, something to think about when it comes to the themes of revolution, revitalizing, re-envisioning how we take in and perceive what we're calling powerful, and a powerful platform. Whose platform is really powerful? And why? what's at work behind it? What's at work underneath the veil that makes it so much more powerful? The how, not just the why, but the how, the when, the where even, that's at work underneath it. So it's why do they need the power to own that even more? Why are they going out of their way to more than affect or cancel what seems like it's getting so many views? If it has so many views, almost like Russell Brand. One thing I can tell you about, the Russell Brand stuff is staying put. The Brian Rose stuff with David Icke stays put. The David Icke stuff stays put. Now, why does that stay put when it has 300,000 to 3 million views and likes, etc., and is way high up there, and it's very conspicuous in the algorithm? Now, where the stuff that's very inconspicuous in the algorithm in terms of its ranking or even ability to be found and to be seen, how come that stuff is way more prone to getting swept under the carpet, especially when it's got something to do with a person who's more spiritually oriented, more interdimensionally and multidimensionally oriented? That person gets shadow banned faster than you can click your fingers, faster than you can snap a whip. That is the stuff that will get shadow banned. Whereas that other stuff that I just mentioned is still why is it still at the front and at the top of the algorithm being promoted? And these people didn't even pay. That's something to think about. I mean, bless Russell Brand, whatever, with what he's doing. He's trying to get some kind of a good word out. When you get that big, that's really hard to do. So if he can do it, more power to him. When you get really big, especially, the more big you get, the more you have to think about what it takes to not lose the traditional, what we call power, like the Elon Musk power, the ability to get 3 million likes or views within 48 hours. The ability to buy out that whole platform when they've done something to irk you and change it at will. Now that is powerful, but in the more mundane sense. And no matter what Elon does, he's not gonna get shadow banned. Imagine that. Now Elon Musk doesn't come along and tweet about interdimensional stuff either, but David Icke does. David Icke's stuff is still up. The Brian Rose thing, it seemed like it was shut down. I think what happened with the Brian Rose David Icke thing, and I've said this in my podcast, I think there was something afoot where he did something for a publicity stunt where he wanted to seem way more under attack than he really was. So, because what he was doing might be multidimensional and interdimensional to an extent, but he's way more about the crypto stuff and the corporate stuff and the what it takes for mundane success stuff. Now, to me, there is a huge difference. There's always going to be a huge difference. So, why do they need to control? And we're going to talk about that in a second. Why is it more important to attempt to control the person who's visibly got something going on with them energetically? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. We're not going to get into conspiracy theory stuff. But I'm just asking you the question. Figure out on your own watch, on your own time. You can do the research if it's that important to you. But why is it more important, and this is absolutely going on, to own and attempt the control of someone who's got 30 to 300 views with 3 likes and is telling the actual truth, but has something at work, something is at play where it's not mundane at all? Whereas the more mundane account that's getting tons and tons of views and likes, where the algorithm, they're highly conspicuous in the algorithm, why is it more important to control the other variety? See what I mean? It's more important to them. That's what they want more. That's what's more coveted. That's what's more desired. There's something at work energetically. This has to do with something, and Elon has actually called it out in a way himself, where he referred to Biden. He's one of Biden's biggest critics. He referred to Biden as something like a damp, barely warmed over sock puppet, meat popsicle sock puppet, something like that. So, and he hit on something right there he didn't even know, and that's this: that they are under control of something. They are meat popsicles. They're meat marionettes. They are damp sock puppets. There is something at work in them bigger than their own self, beyond their own self, beyond their own mundane comprehension of things. I've gone over this a great deal in Station Mercury. I've got as close gets without dying. I did die on some levels. Interdimensionally, I've gone through things. I'd passed through ordeals. The whole Station Mercury, and I need to get back to it, but a lot of Station Mercury has just been put here on my YouTube as I've made a big transition. For me at least, it's been a big transition because I've just recorded my audio and my voice. But anyway, I won't get too off track into that. What we're going to talk about is Mercury is about to be in retrograde, right at the cusp of energy between Gemini and Taurus. Cusp of energy. This will be a highly charged, obnoxious mind games, free-for-all Mercury in retrograde between May and June, followed immediately by Saturn in retrograde, which is being the greater malefic. We're going to see is you thought the government was a clown show already. The government is about to be a clown show in June like never before, and it's about to bear down. It's about to bear down hard, and it's about to just break all over itself. The government is going to be tripping over its own shoelaces with a Saturn retrograde in Aquarius squaring off with what's going on, clashing hard with Mercury in retrograde. And Mercury also, I watched this thing right here on YouTube, and I already knew a bit about it because it's Jungian. It's a Jungian archetypes thing. I don't know if you're familiar with Carl Jung at all, but most people are familiar with shadow integration or shadow work or owning up to your shadow. I was reading something about, or watching something and reading a bit about that's very tied into the shadow, and it's an aspect of that that's more malefic. Speaking of malefic, the greater malefic to the shadow is the trickster. And those who are victim of their own inner trickster are always trying to, they always try to own the archetype of Mercury and the planet of Mercury and the wavelength of Mercury and what that means, which is intellect, wit, thinking themselves more witty, always trying to look like they're outsmarting everybody, always trying to look like they have more of a smart mouth intellectual answer for everything, just real quippy. So that would be those who are victimized by the own trickster. When that trickster hits hard, they always associate themselves to Mercury. So they're in not humble Mercury. They always take Mercury and just run out of control with it. Mercury in alchemy is volatility, quicksilver. It can be very volatile and explosive if you do a wrong operation, alchemical operation, and you miscalculate what's about to happen with unpredictable, spontaneous, very mercurial. Mercury, Gemini is the sign of spontaneity, whereas Virgo, who is also Mercury ruled, is the sign of learning, study, discipline of the intellect, and just sitting there just studying your books and knowing your shit as much as you possibly can. That's how Virgo harnesses Mercury. Virgo also ruled by Mercury, but what, back to the trickster, is Mercury is like your cosmic control room. We all have a cosmic war room, which would be our Mars. We all have a cosmic social room, which, whether you want to call it your inner, whatever you associate with a social room, that's Venus. So whether it would be your inner, where do you go for social things? I don't know. I don't participate in tons of social stuff. Your I guess most people go to a club. Your inner club, your inner nightclub, whatever your inner, whatever it is. I'm sorry. That's Venus. I don't do much social stuff. Whatever you do for your inner sanctuary, your inner altar, your inner church, your inner temple, that would be Jupiter, sort of. So you get that. Your inner war room is Mars. Your inner banking room, your inner bank, that's Saturn, of course. Or your inner government can kind of switch. It is mostly Saturn, but it can kind of switch between Jupiter again in a way. But your inner control room is Mercury. Sorry if I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here. I don't want to salad shoot, but your inner control room is Mercury. So when people are prone to and victim of their trickster, they are just very much they are victim to their own self in the control room. They abuse the internal control room, and they always have to be in control or seem in control when they're very much everything is just all the gauges are peaking in the red, shit's going awry, shit's all chaotic, and they always want to appear like they've still got this. They don't got this. They don't have this at all, but they always try to appear like they're on top of all things. They're state of the art, but they're just losing it in every which direction. That is where the trickster hits. And the new moon conjunct Uranus in Taurus, that very much as Mercury goes retrograde at the cusp of energy, we're talking the trickster is just like at an all-time high. So it would be a great time for just chilling. It's a great time to just chill. No new ventures. I would not engage in new ventures. I would engage in quiet time a lot more. I would engage in preparation time till up to June, where shit really flings hard. The shit hits the fan hardcore is Saturn goes retrograde come June, and things start to get hot. Is when we hit Saturn in retrograde right at summertime. That tends to be really hard. That leads to all-time highs with all kinds of just really bad satanic demonic stuff going on. And I haven't recorded it. I wished I recorded it. I recorded it up here, sure, and that's great, well, fine and good. I've never recorded it on paper though, and I don't know that I should have, but I do know what I know, so take my word for it or leave it. But, you know, if you want to, what you could do is just go back through this day in history, on the days in history where major things happened and Saturn was in retrograde during the summer. And you will, it definitely will be enlightening. So I'm going to cut this short now, even though I could go on and on and on and on, and there's a lot more that I wanted to say. But this is all stuff to take into account and really think about. So, and that was just a bit of free stuff. I'm totally riffing, even though I have like stuff scribbled down. I was so not prepared and just kind of wanted to let it all fly before I go back to do. There's other stuff that I have to do here. So, but I wanted to take a second to sort of get that out there and add something to the YouTube, even though it's not the most graceful. It's definitely just putting my head down and just cranking it as hard as I can towards the net, as they say. At least in hockey, they say that. So just, it might not be the prettiest, but you just put your head down and hit it as hard as you can, and it goes in. So, but again, this book, I will read this book. This book is so valuable. This book is highly, highly, highly accurate. They knew what they're doing. This is just sun signs too. Now what I do is I go through two charts and I look at a lot of the other stuff. I look at the Mars, the Venus. I look at Juno, of course. I look at what's going on with Ceres or Chiron, Pallas Athena. I look at all the important stuff and what's going on. And again, nothing I offer is, this is why you need to get away. This is not why you're going to work out. It's values-based. It is highly values-based. It's designed to bring stuff back from possibly beyond the edge. So that's sort of what sets what I do apart too. It's values-based. It's repairing bridges. No bridges burning. If you decide to do that, that's on your own time. That's not what I do. So, and I will do that for roughly $200. $200, that's definitely worth saving your relationship. saving what's going on with your significant other. So, all right, that's that. This is John, and this is just been a little add-on to everything here at the channel so far. Don't forget to check out my Etsy. I've got new stuff at my Etsy, and I will leave a link below. Definitely pick up some of my new hoodies. They are looking choice. So, all right, take care.